Broadcasting just steps from the Las Vegas Strip, it's the Digital Advocate.
Hi, I'm Nick Nichols, the Digital Advocate, and welcome to our small business educational series. In another video, we talked about the importance of having a well-structured website, the importance of social media, blogging, and how all of that gives you a good, solid foundation. Now, once we've got a good, solid foundation, the next important thing for you to do is get noticed. And so today we've got Jeremy Ginsberg here, and he's going to talk to us about how you get noticed on the web. So welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Thanks, Nick.
Cool. Me and I had met through one of my mutual clients, John, over at Wrap It Up. Mm-hmm. And about a year ago, John opened his company. He was basically just a guy that was doing window tints and wraps, and he went from nothing to this explosive, like the guy in color change wrapping. And for those of you that don't know what that is, a lot of people go out and buy, say, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something really cool, and they want a unique color to it, and, well, John's the guy that gets called. And so you and I met through that. We talked about John, and one thing that I'd like to show you now is John's site has evolved over the first year, and it's came up, and it's a pretty good site, like the others that we talked about. It's a WordPress, got the information about what he does, but it wasn't quite the full platform that John needed. So one of the things that we did is we moved John over to MoPro. And MoPro gave him his social connections, it gave him the blogging, it gives him the ability to have his portfolio online. So the physical structure now of his site is in place. And that's where Jeremy comes in. Now that we've got the structure, we've got the start, what do we do, and what are the three important discovery strategies that you can talk about in order to get John where he's noticed over here on this little thing called Google?
Yeah. Google is, I call it God Google, it is massively important to a local business, a small business, medium business, large business, and it depends on how you get your customers. That is what drives what kind of strategy you use. In the case of John, he has a physical location. He has a marketplace of people that tend to use mobile phones more than any other device to find what they're looking for. So taking a strategy of what we call, in my business, local mobile SEO, of building citations. A citation is your name, your address, your phone number. Building a bank of citations, getting it proliferated around the web. I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, and that's important for John's clients because they're in these fast cars, and when he says citation, it's not a speeding citation. Let's be clear, okay? This is and citations were really interesting to me because you don't even necessarily know what they are. They're kind of this hidden thing on the web.
Yeah, they're basically, there's a lot of directories, there's a lot of companies, there's I work with a company that publishes a lot of newspapers, and you go look in a newspaper and you see that directory of restaurants in every newspaper. You go to a website or like a Yelp and you see Yelp is basically a citation bank. It's one of the biggest in the country. So is Facebook, so is Foursquare, and all those name, addresses, phone numbers, what you do, what your hours are, what links to your website. Those are very important. Google is looking at those.
Well, and the one thing that they like is consistency, right? Yeah. That's really important.
Exactly.
And one of the things that the MoPro platform does is it gives us the ability to tie to something like 113 different ones of these so that at least your address is familiar.
Exactly. And you go take a look at John. John just recently relocated, I think, for the second time.
And matter of fact, funny little story. When I first go meet John, I Googled him. Mm-hmm. And I went to his old location.
Exactly.
And I'm like, John, buddy, where are you at? And it's, I moved.
Yeah.
And I said, honestly, that's why he employed the digital advocate to begin with. I'm like, John, we got to fix that.
And here's what's happening is right now, Google is not, it's very easy to live inside of our own heads and our own worlds and know how important our location is. Google doesn't understand that. So Google's out there right now seeing 100 listings of his old location, his first location, 100 listings of his new locations, 100 listings of some other location, another company that sounds like Wrap It Up but isn't Wrap It Up.
Right.
And they're trying to sort it out and figure out, okay, is this guy relevant? Is this guy legitimate? I mean, and so when the typical human being pulls out their phone and says, I want to do a car wrap to my car and types car wraps into their phone, Google doesn't see him as relevant. Google doesn't serve him as a result. John doesn't get that call.
Right.
And that's sad.
Right.
So our company comes in, we clean out all of those bad citations, all the incorrect information that's out there. Take those 130 or so that's coming from MoPro over there. We add in another 60 what they call top tier citations, which is your Yelps, your Foursquares, a lot of things you have heard of, a lot of things you haven't heard of, and then about another 1,000 citations after that. And what that creates is relevancy.
Correct.
With Google.
Correct. And that's basically for local, for people that are on their phone locally, and they're trying to look up, something that's a relative. And then that kind of shows up here. If we look at Google, when you go down and you look at the map, that's what this type of thing does, right?
Yeah. So on your phone, this is on the desktop. You see these results on desktop too. It's not as accurate as in terms of geography as your phone is. But you'll take a look here. The computer kind of knows where we're at. He typed in car wraps, I believe, is the search.
Right. We use
car wraps.
Actually,
Las Vegas.
Car wraps Las Vegas.
And we get 3 competitors of John's that he's not on this map. We both know John's phenomenal, probably the best out there. He should be at the top of this map.
Right.
But Google just basically has said, and this will happen while you're sitting in your own business. We can go sit in. I'll sit in a restaurant, sushi restaurant. I'll type in sushi. Sitting in the restaurant, and it won't come up on the results.
Right.
Because Google has deemed it irrelevant. It's not a relevant location, so they don't want to stake their reputation or the recommendation on telling you that this is a sushi restaurant you should go to.
Gotcha.
So that's what's happening here is we create that relevancy, and all of a sudden people click on it, and Google starts to know it's legit, knows it's real, and they start to give them reach, and that reach can extend 6 miles. It can extend nationwide.
Gotcha. So what happens when you build a well-structured website? That's step number 1. Mm-hmm. Step number 2 is start to get some personalized content about you out there.
Yeah.
Step number 3 is where you come in, where we start doing these citations on the back end, and we start making everybody else realize that, hey, this is a legitimate business.
Yeah.
And it's legitimate because it's listed everywhere correctly and the same. It's not over here. It's not over there. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. This specifically is what that business does.
And you'd be surprised. This is the number one thing I recommend every human being that has a business to be actively engaged in this, not because I sell it, but because I'm watching Google put businesses out of business because they're not coming up here.
And everything has changed these days. I mean, everybody pulls their phone out, puts in what they want, and pulls stuff up, and that's where the world starts.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the way it works these days.
If your car breaks down on the side of the road, what are you going to do? You pull out your phone and search for a tow truck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now that we've got the local in place, we're getting them to understand that it's a real legitimate business. We've got things going on. The next step, I would assume, would be to come up on a search listing.
Well, yeah. So now taking this space right here, you got a map space that's local. That's the phones. Over here, you get into the paid spaces. All of these
all of this stuff.
That's Google AdWords.
Over here. These are all things that people actually pay for.
Yeah.
Right.
And you set up an AdWords account. And you can buy ads in those spaces. And you're going to get traction. What I've learned over the years is anywhere between 10 to 20% of people doing search will click on these ads. And also it depends on what kind of industry they're searching in. But 80% of your search, 80 to 90% of your search is going to come from those organics. That's
and people that halfway understand Google understand that, okay, these guys paid for it. So maybe they're important, maybe they're not. But I know for a fact that these guys, these guys, they have no something.
Well, Google has conditioned us, Google, Lycos, all those old search engines over the years, conditioned us that those top 3 results are Google's endorsement for who the best in this best solution is for that search query.
Right. Right. And again, building up to the solid site, whether they blog, whether they have video, whether they have the local citations in place, and then we move up to a page ranking.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So 80 to 90% of the clicks are going to happen on those on page 1. They say the best place to hide a body is on page 2 of Google search.
Right.
You want to be page 1, and there's a whole combination of services that you need to engage in there. Steps, it's hundreds. I heard recently somebody told me there's 1,200 different steps you need to have. You need to kind of work with on a website to get it into the top of search rankings. Most of the companies that are in the top are probably there accidentally at the moment. It's when you have a viable competitor that's working with a real strong SEO firm that's doing a lot of very good strategy and tactical moves. That's when certain categories you're going to see a lot of that play.
Well, and something like you had mentioned, pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine, getting a pizza delivered to your house is a really competitive marketplace.
Yeah.
Okay. So in John's particular case, we know that there's a lot of things that we can do for him to help him move up in there. Because again, he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
So after we've done the local stuff now, and this is all things that you do. You put together citations, you do the local, and then the next step for him would be the page rankings.
Yeah, the desktop SEO.
And this isn't like, okay, hey, tomorrow you're going to be number one on Google, right? Because we've still got some controls that Google still plays the king.
It's God Google, and we are doing the work to appease God Google. It takes typically anything that you're going to do, any move I make is going to take 2 to 3 months to resonate with Google.
Right.
So you're talking about a very slow process, but it's also a very profitable process for a business, and you have to tackle it at some point. You can't pretend it's going away. It's not a fad.
Right. It's not like the old days where you go print some flyers and hand them around on the people, stick them in the cars, all that type of stuff. Yeah, it just doesn't work these days.
Yeah, and the stuff you heard 6 months ago that you should do with your website that's going to put you at the top isn't true anymore because Google changes their algorithm every
constant. Yeah, they constantly look at how they value importance.
Yeah,
right.
So you can get to the top and you can stay there, but the more competitive it gets, the more people that in your space that engage with professional SEO firms, the harder it's going to be to stay in that top space, just because it is what it is.
Right.
There's hoops to jump through.
And for a small business owner to try and do this, he'd probably have to be really savvy.
My favorite customers are restaurants, and I love people that make food for a living. I love restaurant owners. They work 16 to 18-hour days. Even the most successful ones are working 16 to 18 hours, and they're not digital marketing specialists. They hate Yelp. I mean, it is what it is. We're in a digital marketing world where you have to deal with it. Hire a resource, whether it's my company or another company. Hire a buddy to help you fix this. And
if somebody does it wrong, that's a whole nother set of issues, right?
Oh God, yeah. Oh, I don't want to get. Yeah. Then there's hacking. I opened up a site. There's a local window company here. I opened up the back of their site, and they were going. It was, like I said, window coverings, but according to everything, all their backlinks, they were an Ambien company. They had been hacked.
Oh yeah.
They were losing market share. They were getting penalties if you actually searched for their name, Google would actually tell you not to go to the site because it had been hacked. Like,
there you go.
That?
Yeah, there you go. And that's an important thing, watching that back end and keeping track of it. And another good reason to be on a professional platform to start off with, because you can't do anything for somebody. I mean, that's a really expensive turn.
Years.
I mean, ultimately you can fix it, but we're talking long time.
Talking 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now the third strategy, because now we've got you local, we got your citations going out. We spent 3 or 6 months. We're building you up the page links. We're moving down the road. Now there's this really new thing that's it's been around, but people are now starting to notice it.
Well, what's happened is it's now attainable for small businesses. It wasn't attainable before. It's the banner that follows you around the web. So if you ever seen
the real-time banners,
You ever shop for something on Amazon, then you go to Facebook and there's that product that you were shopping for. So like the barbecue that you looked at on Amazon's right there on Facebook now.
Right. And those of you who don't know about the Digital Advocate, he's a Subaru freak. And so every time I pull into Facebook or Subaru this, Subaru that, and sometimes when my wife's sitting there, she's like, you've been looking for Subaru again. I'm like, no, honey, no. Well, Nick. Yeah.
It's actually good for the user. It's good for the advertiser, good for the marketer. Traditional advertising has always had a lot of waste. You run an ad, you run a billboard, and 70,000 cars pass that billboard. Only two, maybe let's say it's for tires. Only 2 of the people in those cars, those 70,000 cars, actually need tires right now. So your waste is 69,998.
Right.
This allows you to eliminate the waste. I can actively go find people that are searching for exactly what you sell, send them marketing directly to them that appeals to what we know they're interested in, and usually get a higher conversion rate with less waste than any other kind of marketing.
Right. And there are ways to block all of that, but you have to really know what you're doing. And 90% of the world, and probably an even higher number, doesn't even go through that process.
And frankly, think about it. If I'm looking for a barbecue on Amazon, I'm shopping for barbecues, I'm looking for tires. I want to get tire advertising for a short period of time. For a couple of weeks, I'd like to get that. I want to find that best deal. And if it comes to me via a banner, woohoo!
Yeah, all the much better. Yeah. Right. So in the world, when the web works the way the web should work, it actually could end up with you getting a big discount someplace that you might have never even heard of.
Yeah, it's actually, and it's a $9 billion industry this year. So $9 billion is being spent on this kind of marketing this year. That's going to go up. Who knows? could be 21 billion this coming year, but it's growing like crazy because it has a high degree of success.
Well, and you can even do things in like we have a big rodeo here in town, that comes around, and a lot of the places have like rodeo specials.
Yeah.
So you can actually track down to an area and say, okay, within what's called a geofence, and within this area, we can actually target an ad because our restaurant has specials for rodeos.
Yeah,
right?
Take a brand new karate. Yeah, perfect example. But take like a brand new karate studio that opens up in the suburbs. They want to target all the people that are around them in that suburban area. So they want to target people with kids. So I eliminate the single family, single guys and the single women. I only go after people that have kids. I only go after people that have a certain income. They only live in that little zip code that this business is in, and it costs him next to nothing because this is not an expensive advertising medium. Highly targeted and delivers. Same with that tourist demographic and that rodeo. I can go after people I know are country music listeners. I know they're in town. I know they're in town for the rodeo. I know where they're staying. I can target people staying in a specific hotel. It just only own.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. And that's like the ultimate place to put your ads if you're a small business owner, because you do have limited funds. You do have a specific product that you want to move to, and you probably know your client, your customer better than most.
Exactly.
I mean, most good small business. I can tell you, John's big thing is demographics. My demographics. It's like the word that he always likes to use. He knows it. He inherently knows who buys his product, who changes their colors, what they're going to like. That's just something that he knows.
Yeah, that's the best part is I can use a data pixel. I can put a data pixel on your website, and I can collect that kind of data from everybody who comes to the website, and I can put it on the post-purchase part of your website, so I can see what the commonalities that made those people purchasers. So I can see that maybe it's a guy who has a BMW, who has an iPhone, has 3.1 kids.
There you go.
Lives in this city. You can so much data, and then you can target just those people. I can target all the other people that are just like that guy.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's the next step in a website, in a web presence.
Exactly.
Okay, well, here we are. Jeremy, I want to thank you so much. You've given us these discovery strategies that I think are really important. And we're going to probably issue another digital challenge, but we'll talk about that in the next issue. And poor John, he's going to get a victim of the digital challenge.
I wouldn't call it victim. It's getting drug into the future.
There we go. Okay, well, again, thank you very much. This is Nick, the Digital Advocate, and we'll be back with another series soon.